Hey everybody, and welcome to our second episode of Phoenix Files. It's a special edition of Phoenix Files. Today we're going to be talking about a little more in depth about If We Shadows Have Offended. It was our big story arc that just wrapped up last Friday. We were very excited to bring all those episodes to you in that very awesome story. I am joined once again by Jal and Moltrazahn. Say hi, guys.
Hi, this is Jean.
And this is Moltrazahn, aka Molt.
AKA Arkin, AKA that weird guy that blends into the wall.
Shh, they'll know.
Anyway, welcome in, guys. Let's dive right in. Let's talk a little bit more in depth about the If We Shadows Have Offended story. We talked a little bit about it in our last podcast back on Saturday. Jal, let me ask you first. Tell me a little bit about just very briefly the basic premise of the story.
Yeah, so it was a collaborative effort between me, yourself, Tiller, and Jusenna. So yeah, as I mentioned in the last episode, just to sort of tie everything together. So we have some entities who seem to be causing some problems, and then we've got this issue that emerges later on of this merge happening between universes.
And at first, we saw this ship come in. We dubbed it the Relic. At first, we thought this ship was behind some of the problems that we were having because it showed up at around the same time, right?
Yeah, something that I enjoyed about getting to help write this storyline was that we had a lot of bait and switches here. We had a lot of misleading things that were all important. Everything was important and everything did connect. But there were a lot of misdirections by having this old relic show up first and seems to sort of have a mind of its own. It seems to be targeting the colony. And then these entities are possessing people and killing some people and seem to really have it out for us. And we initially think that things are connected in a slightly different way than they actually were.
Now, Molt, you were around for a good chunk of the story, not every episode, but just as somebody that was participating, what was your sense of this story and just the mood that came with it?
Well, at the time when this started, I was still a relatively new member of the 5th Fleet Special Operations. However, in that time that I have been a member, we had previously had some possessions going on, namely of, well, Trent. So when these possessions started showing up, my character Arkin would start making connections there, that maybe there was some sort of correlation between the two. However, this was not entirely true. It was still a good element because, as Jal mentioned, there was some misinformation, or if nothing else, there was a, well, shall we say, general openness to making your own conclusions, and I feel that this event was very good at doing that, some misinformation.
Now, Jal, I know you're particularly proud of this point. Tell me a little bit about what the title, If We Shadows Have Offended, actually refers to.
Oh, now you're just trying to make me happy. Yeah, so we did have fun with this. It was Tiller's suggestion that we should make a reference to Shakespeare in keeping with all the spirit of Star Trek, and that Star Trek has done that repeatedly. So since we have these entities that are non-corporeal, they're even out of phase with us beyond that, so they're very non-tangible beings that are doing all these possessions, and we initially think that this is very malicious. And we find out later on that they were actually rather innocent victims here. They were blamed for this merge, and they really had nothing to do with it. And they were being slowly starved. So they were being pushed away from their food source, and we end up coming in and helping to fix that. But in the meantime, there's lots of hostility between us, between our two peoples. We think we're enemies, and we're really not. We're really both suffering from the same problem. So we pulled from Midsummer Night's Dream for this. The end of Midsummer Night's Dream has this line, "If we shadows have offended," meaning in that case the actors, but in this case the entities who didn't mean to cause any offense, but did.
And of course, if you weren't at the actual RP, one of the entities was speaking through Natalin at the time, and actually brought that line back around full circle, saying if we shadows have offended, something along the lines. Of course, I'm paraphrasing. If we shadows have offended, we apologize and we hope we can move on from here.
And I think in terms of the story, we definitely have. We've now established peaceful relations, and things seem to be going in a good direction for everyone.
Now, this is the first multi-episode story that has happened in the fifth for quite some time. From your perspective, Molt, how did that go? How did that feel, having such a long story arc?
Oh, I wanted to be in absolutely every episode, which sadly #life did not allow me to do, but it was very enjoyable. I truly had where I'm not the type that wants to log in every day to do dailies, if you will. I still wanted to log in absolutely to participate in these events in the storyline, because at some point you feel that you have, your own stakes in it. And eventually, by the end of it, I feel that we did. I mean, you mentioned earlier that everybody got out of it sort of okay. I mean, obviously, Lieutenant Caius having a grenade to his chest, again, didn't do much good for him. But at the same time, I'm not sure our relation with Mirror Universe Gel and Trent is on the best of terms.
No,
Those are some good points.
that's probably a good point. That actually leads me to another question. And this is for both of you, where do you guys see this sort of relationship with the Mirror Universe going? Because I have a feeling that's not the last we're going to see of Mirror Trent.
Oh, well, I think it definitely leaves a door open if we ever want to go back there. And I know that this did get a lot of other people thinking about, well, what does my character look like in the Mirror Universe? And we had this planned out for quite a while, so it was easy to pull in characters who we already knew what they looked like and who they were. But I think it would be really fun if other people sort of keep ruminating on this idea and what is the counterpart to my character? And we could do a whole fun arc pulling in a bunch of characters if we wanted.
Actually, as you say that, I just submitted a story myself, because encountering the roleplay with the mirror version of Jal, I noticed that she doesn't know my character, despite the Prime universe that our characters work together. But in the mirror one, she didn't know mine, which left me thinking, I wonder what mine would be like. And taking the creative freedom of roleplay, I decided to write a short story about him. And he is an absolute ass. So, there's that.
Now, Trent, you've been doing all the question asking, but you had the character who had the most crossover.
Yes.
You were absent a couple weeks. So how is that for you?
Well, it is always a little bit of a gamble, I think, when you take your main character out of a storyline. Even though, with Trent, he was very much a part of the story. He wasn't around, obviously. And with Mirror Trent being confined to the brig, that left me, as the player, a little bit at a disadvantage, because it left me kind of really stretching to see how I can fit my other characters in. But that being said, I think it was very much worth it, because I got to explore, really delve into Mirror Trent and what he would be like, and the sort of life that he has going for him. And in addition to that, I had to put myself in the position of Prime Trent in the Mirror Universe. How would he survive? How would he get through that experience? I plan to, at some point, write up a report that will explain a little bit of that for everybody. But for the sake of this, I think he very much. I think it shook him a little bit to be there, to be on his own, to be in such a strange yet familiar place. Really, I think did a little bit of damage to him, I think. So this actually is an interesting conversation, because, of course, if you've been watching Star Trek Discovery, they're in the middle of a pretty major Mirror Universe story arc as well. let me ask you both, because you both watched Discovery. What is when you see the mirror universe there and the interactions we've had with the mirror universe in our storyline? How does that? Do those feel similar to you, or does it make you more excited to try and explore that a little bit?
Well, I know that STD is getting a lot of negative feedback from lots of Star Trek fans. However, I myself view it as long as the continued story of Star Trek is being expanded, then it's a good thing. You might not enjoy in particular the direction that they take in some cases, but at the same time, at least it is expanding. Star Trek is not dead, it didn't stop producing movies or series or games. It's still being incorporated with new elements and new things that can spark the creativity, not only in Star Trek Online, which they obviously try to follow what's going on, but also in general roleplay and stories and the likes. I mean, the universe is expanding, and therefore I feel that including some of the same elements that we see in the general media of the time in the roleplay, we actually get to be a bit on the hype that's going on and exploring the new possibilities. And that's always a interesting prospect to have. And it livens up the roleplay.
I very much agree that, I think as long as Star Trek is continuing and having new material added is ultimately a good thing. And just to put a disclaimer out there, we did not know that they were going to do a mirror storyline at the same time. Point. Yeah, it was really funny. Trent and I sat down to watch the episode and we were like, oh, okay, this is quite ironic. Because we did have it planned out from the beginning that the Trents would get swapped because, again, universes are merging. The mirror universe is one that was familiar. And again, it's a bit of a misdirection of suddenly, wait, is the mirror universe invading? Is something going on? Is it just the mirror universe? No, it's actually all universes. But it's just a piece of information that we have some backstory to. So we're likely to make assumptions about it. But it was fun to see that run concurrently. It was funny because we didn't know exactly how we were going to get Trent back up front. So I was really hoping that Discovery would give us some ideas. They have not yet gotten there. But we found our own ways of using the relic, which I think worked. So we did pull in the quantum signature thing. I did jump on the quantum signature and say, let's use that every universe has its own quantum signature.
Yeah, the timing of the quantum signature revelation, that was very fortuitous, I think, for us, because we were struggling a little bit to figure out a way to use some technobabble to recognize what was happening, and that sort of just fell in our laps.
Well, that's the fantastic thing, isn't it? Because we are not Starfleet engineers or scientists. We are regular people with regular jobs doing whatever we do to sustain ourselves in our puny human flesh-like vessels until the day we die. However, that being said, Technobabble is interesting because unlike in, I'm just going to do a heretical thing here, say Star Wars, where you can say the Force did this, Star Trek is a little bit more scientific.
I think we just lost half of our audience when you said that, by the way.
Fantastic. Well, that means that I can listen to it 5 more times and bring us up back to speed. My point being that Star Trek is more scientific. And if you want to have a, sort of feel like you do in the movies and in the series, then you want to be able to have that quote-unquote technobabble down so it sounds at least somewhat believable. And the fact that STD managed to give us some things that was actual technobabble that we then could use in our own roleplay story, that was fantastic. It made it feel so much better. Because I was the one sitting there having to tell the other universe what we were doing so they could replicate it. And I kept saying, okay, well, you mirror universe, this is prime universe. And in that roleplay, I think it was Aaron who said, I think they're 150.2 and we are, I even forget what we are. So in that roleplay, I learned in characterly and out of characterly what the quantum signature is of the 2 universes. which was just fantastic.
That was a fun challenge throughout this whole roleplay because it was a technical one. There was a lot of things going on, and we did have a lot of technobabble to keep straight. But I was very impressed. I feel like people did keep up with it to a good extent and had both IC and OOC learning simultaneously happening.
There is one more thing I want to talk about before we run out of time, and that is Caius. You mentioned it a little bit a minute ago, Molt.
Poor Caius.
Of course, yeah, poor Caius. Of course, at the time of taping this podcast, we don't know a whole lot about his condition yet, other than to say it is very bad. He took a grenade hit to the chest to save everybody. Tell me a little bit about that. Did that surprise? Well, obviously, it didn't totally surprise you, Jal, but there was a little bit of a surprise, though, in there for you. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I mentioned that last time that I did not know it was going to be Mirror Trent. You changed that up on me. We were going to have it be just a Ceratarian operative, essentially seeing an opportunity to, like, what's this relic thing? Can we get into this other universe? Can we sort of get a leg up? And so I was expecting just some nameless NPC to show up, and then it's Mirror Trent. So in regards to what you were saying before about where could this go in the future, well, now the fleet has quite the reason to dislike this Mirror Trent character and potentially try to get revenge on him at some point.
And for you, Molt, obviously that was a complete surprise in and of itself that was even going to happen. What were you thinking when Caius ran in there and saved the day?
I recently had some roleplay with Jal in Characterly, where she kind of told Arkin to, stay up to code. And while I was standing next to Mirror Trent and we were going to exchange them, I had the thought, I want Arkin to play a tactical grenade on this guy that I can set off with a remote control. Because Arkin wanted to do that. But given the talk he had with Jal, he did not do it. And seeing that guy, when the doors opened with a grenade in his hand, I just wanted to, God damn it!
I think a lot of people had that feeling.
It's not going to improve his relationship with Jal much.
No, but then again, if he had done it, I'm sure that the story would have twisted itself slightly so that Mirror Trent would be standing with that grenade in his hand, hot-wired, and then he would be throwing that grenade, which then would have meant Arkin was the one that landed Caius in sickbay. So, in a way, it worked out, but at the same time, I want to blow that guy up. No offense, Trent.
No offense taken. I think a lot of people want to blow that guy up. Well, we are just about out of time, but thank you guys so much for this discussion. I think this was a really good insight into the story. And of course, as I mentioned in the last episode, we've got some really exciting storylines in the pipeline for you guys, both related to this and not. So stick around and enjoy the RP here in the 5th, and we will see you guys next time on the Phoenix Files. Say goodbye, guys.
Goodbye, guys.
Bye, everyone. Catch you later.